Have you ever wondered why so many people struggle to thrive past 80, even after reaching that incredible milestone? It's not just about luck or genetics. There are four silent, powerful forces quietly working against your body as you age, impacting your energy, strength, and independence in ways you might not even notice until it's too late. In this video, we're diving deep into these four real reasons, backed by decades of medical research, that hold most people back from living long and strong after 80. You need to watch until the end because the fourth reason might catch you by surprise and could be the key to protecting your health, vitality, and purpose for years to come. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. Reason 1. Silent inflammation that accelerates aging. One of the most significant yet often overlooked threats to health after the age of 80 doesn't stem from external pathogens or traumatic injuries. Instead, it originates from within the body through a subtle, insidious process known as inflammaging. This term, widely used in medical and aging research, describes a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation that persists at a cellular level, often without producing overt symptoms in its early stages. Unlike acute inflammation, such as the redness and swelling from a cut or infection, inflammaging operates quietly, gradually eroding the health of cells, tissues, and organs over time. This relentless process accelerates aging, undermines the body's resilience, and sets the stage for a host of age-related diseases, making it a critical concern for those in their later years. Inflammaging differs markedly from the temporary inflammation that accompanies an injury or illness. Acute inflammation is the body's natural response to harm, designed to heal and protect. In contrast, inflammaging is a chronic, systemic condition that builds over decades, fueled by a combination of lifestyle factors and environmental exposures. These include a diet high in processed foods laden with refined sugars, trans fats, and artificial additives, chronic psychological or physiological stress from life's pressures, such as caregiving, financial worries, or unresolved emotional strain, inadequate or disrupted sleep patterns that prevent the body from repairing itself, a sedentary lifestyle lacking regular physical activity, and cumulative exposure to environmental toxins, such as air pollution, pesticides, or chemicals in household products. Each of these factors contributes to a persistent inflammatory state that, while initially imperceptible, slowly chips away at the body's foundational systems. The consequences of inflammaging are far-reaching, affecting nearly every aspect of health. In the cardiovascular system, chronic inflammation can stiffen arteries, promote plaque buildup, and increase the risk of heart attacks or strokes. In the brain, it can impair neural function, contributing to cognitive decline, memory loss, and an elevated risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. Joints suffer as inflammation erodes cartilage and fuels conditions like osteoarthritis, leading to pain and restricted mobility. Even the immune system is compromised, as persistent inflammation weakens its ability to fight infections or respond to vaccines, leaving older adults more vulnerable to illness. The silent nature of this process is what makes it so dangerous. Without obvious symptoms, many people remain unaware of the damage until it manifests as a serious health condition. Consider the example of George, an 82-year-old retiree who appeared to be in good health. He had never smoked, rarely drank alcohol, and maintained a daily habit of walking around his neighborhood. Yet, despite his seemingly healthy lifestyle, George frequently felt exhausted, experienced stiffness in his joints, and struggled with occasional mental fog that made it harder to focus or recall details. His routine medical checkups showed normal blood work, offering no clear explanation for his symptoms. It wasn't until he consulted a geriatric specialist that advanced testing revealed elevated levels of inflammatory markers, such as C-reactive protein, CRP, and interleukin-6, IL-6, in his system. These markers pointed to inflammaging, a silent, smoldering process that had been quietly undermining his vitality for years, even in the absence of a diagnosable disease. As we age, the body's ability to regulate inflammation naturally declines. The immune system becomes less efficient, and the mechanisms that once kept inflammation in check begin to falter. This means that lifestyle habits that may have been tolerable in your 50s or 60s, such as occasional fast food meals, prolonged periods of sitting, or inconsistent sleep schedules, become far more consequential after 80. Over time, Chronic inflammation erodes the body's resilience, increasing the risk of serious conditions like cardiovascular disease, dementia, diabetes, and frailty. It acts like a slow-burning fire, gradually weakening the body's structural and functional integrity. Fortunately, inflammaging is not an inevitable fate, and many of the most effective tools to combat it are both accessible and cost-free. A diet rich in anti-inflammatory foods can make a significant difference. Incorporating whole foods like leafy greens, berries, fatty fish rich in omega-3s, nuts, and olive oil while minimizing processed foods can help reduce inflammatory markers. Regular physical activity, such as a daily 20-30-minute walk or gentle exercises like Tai Chi, promotes better circulation, reduces stress hormones, and lowers inflammation. Prioritizing high-quality sleep, aiming for 7 to 8 hours per night in a restful environment, allows the body to repair and reset. Stress management techniques, such as meditation, deep breathing, or even spending time in nature, can further dampen the inflammatory response. Minimizing exposure to environmental toxins, such as by using natural cleaning products or avoiding heavily polluted areas, also supports the body's ability to keep inflammation in check. While these changes require consistency and may not yield immediate results, their cumulative impact can be transformative, helping to preserve energy, mobility, and overall health well into your 80s and beyond. By proactively addressing silent inflammation, you can slow the aging process and enhance your quality of life. Small, intentional steps, eating better, moving more, sleeping well, and managing stress, can turn down the flame of inflammaging, allowing you to maintain strength, vitality, and independence for years to come. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Reason 2. Muscle loss that leads to weakness and falls. Another critical yet often underestimated threat to health after 80 is the progressive loss of muscle mass, a condition known as sarcopenia. This natural process begins as early as the 30s, with muscle mass declining by roughly 1 to 2% per year after age 60. After 80, however, the rate of loss accelerates significantly, posing serious risks to strength, mobility, and overall independence. Sarcopenia is insidious because it doesn't manifest with dramatic symptoms at first. Instead, it creeps in through subtle changes in daily life, which, if ignored, can lead to devastating consequences like falls, fractures, and the loss of autonomy. The early signs of sarcopenia are often so subtle that they're easy to overlook or attribute to just getting older. You might find it takes more effort to open a tight jar, that rising from a low chair requires using your arms for support, or that climbing a flight of stairs feels more fatiguing than it used to. These small challenges are red flags signaling the gradual erosion of muscle mass, which serves far more than just physical strength. Muscles play a vital role in maintaining balance, stabilizing joints, regulating blood sugar, and supporting metabolic health. They act as a buffer against falls, absorbing impact and helping to prevent injuries. When muscle mass diminishes, the risk of falls increases dramatically, and with it, the likelihood of fractures, particularly hip fractures, which can be life-altering for older adults. The story of Frank, an 84-year-old widower, illustrates the real-world impact of sarcopenia. Frank was mentally sharp, socially active, and proud of his ability to live independently. He enjoyed tending to his small garden and taking daily walks to the local park. But one afternoon, a minor misstep on a loose rug in his living room led to a fall that fractured his hip. Before the incident, Frank had considered himself steady and capable, unaware of how much muscle strength he had lost over the previous few years. The fall triggered a cascade of challenges: surgery, weeks of immobility in a hospital bed, and a prolonged rehabilitation process that further weakened his muscles. What began as a seemingly minor accident marked a turning point, diminishing his confidence and forcing him to rely on a walker, significantly curtailing his once active lifestyle. The danger of sarcopenia lies in its compounding effects. A single fall can set off a downward spiral. Immobility leads to further muscle loss, which increases weakness and the risk of additional falls. For older adults, a hip fracture is particularly devastating. Research shows that up to 50% of those who suffer a hip fracture never regain their previous level of function, and many require long-term care or assisted living as a result. Beyond the physical toll, falls can erode confidence, leading to fear of movement, social isolation, and a diminished quality of life. The transition from independence to dependence often begins with the loss of muscle mass, making sarcopenia a critical issue for those over 80. The good news is that sarcopenia is not an inevitable consequence of aging. While muscle loss occurs naturally, targeted interventions can significantly slow its progression and, in many cases, reverse it. Regular physical activity is the cornerstone of muscle preservation. Simple exercises like walking for 20 to 30 minutes daily can maintain muscle tone, improve balance, and enhance coordination. Incorporating light resistance training, using bodyweight, resistance bands, or small dumbbells 2 to 3 times a week, stimulates muscle growth and strengthens key muscle groups. For example, exercises like chair squats, wall push-ups, or leg lifts can be done at home with minimal equipment. Nutrition is equally critical. Consuming adequate protein, found in foods like eggs, chicken, fish, tofu, lentils, or Greek yogurt, supports muscle repair and maintenance, especially when paired with exercise. Aiming for 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily is a common recommendation for older adults. Gentle stretching or mobility exercises, such as yoga or tai chi, can further improve flexibility, reduce stiffness, and enhance overall function. These interventions don't require extreme effort, expensive gym memberships, or specialized equipment. The goal is not to achieve a bodybuilder's physique but to preserve enough strength and stability to perform daily tasks with confidence. Whether that's carrying groceries, climbing stairs, gardening, or simply getting out of bed safely each morning. Consistency is key. Small, deliberate efforts over time can yield significant results, helping to prevent the downward spiral of muscle loss and its associated risks. Muscle mass is more than just a source of physical strength. It's a critical protector of your independence and quality of life. After 80, prioritizing muscle health can be the difference between merely living longer and living better. Maintaining the freedom to enjoy the activities and connections that make life meaningful. Reason 3. Poor sleep that weakens the body and mind. One of the most insidious threats to health after the age of 80 is not an external force like injury or infection but a silent, internal process that unfolds within the body itself: inflammaging. This term, coined by medical researchers, refers to chronic, low-grade inflammation that persists over time, quietly damaging cells, tissues, and organs. Unlike acute inflammation, the body's immediate, visible response to a cut, sprain, or infection, characterized by redness, swelling, or pain, inflammaging is subtle and often symptomless in its early stages, making it a stealthy adversary. Without specialized tests, such as those measuring inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein, CRP, or interleukin-6, IL-6, it can go undetected for years, slowly eroding the body's resilience and accelerating the aging process. Inflammaging is not a sudden condition but a cumulative one, driven by decades of lifestyle choices, environmental exposures, and physiological changes. It differs markedly from the temporary inflammation caused by a minor injury, such as a sprained ankle, which resolves quickly with rest and care. Instead, inflammaging builds gradually, fueled by factors like chronic stress, poor dietary habits, inadequate or disrupted sleep, a sedentary lifestyle, and exposure to environmental toxins such as air pollution, pesticides, or chemicals in household products. These triggers prompt the release of pro-inflammatory molecules, such as cytokines and chemokines, which circulate in the bloodstream and silently damage vital systems. Over time, this chronic inflammatory state affects nearly every aspect of health. It strains the cardiovascular system, increasing the risk of heart disease and stroke. It impairs cognitive function, contributing to memory decline and dementia. It weakens joints, exacerbating arthritis, and it compromises the immune system, leaving the body more vulnerable to infections and age-related diseases. To illustrate the impact of inflammaging, consider the story of Margaret, an 83-year-old retired teacher who led what she believed was a healthy lifestyle. She avoided smoking, limited alcohol, and enjoyed gardening and light walks in her community. Yet, over time, Margaret began experiencing persistent fatigue, occasional joint pain, and difficulty concentrating during conversations. Initially, she attributed these symptoms to normal aging and dismissed them as inevitable. Routine blood tests ordered by her primary care physician showed no obvious abnormalities, leaving her without answers. It wasn't until she visited a geriatric specialist who ordered advanced tests for inflammatory markers that the underlying issue came to light. Margaret's CRP and IL-6 levels were elevated, indicating that her body was in a state of chronic inflammation. This low-grade inflammation, likely simmering for years, was quietly undermining her energy, mobility, and mental clarity, even though she had no diagnosed condition. As we age, the body's ability to regulate inflammation naturally declines, a process known as immunosenescence. The immune system becomes less precise, often overreacting to harmless stimuli or failing to shut off inflammatory responses effectively. This creates a state of chronic immune activation, where the body is essentially fighting an invisible battle with no clear enemy. Habits that may have been manageable in one's 50s or 60s, such as occasional fast food, prolonged periods of inactivity, or irregular sleep, become far more consequential after 80. For example, poor sleep, a common issue in older adults due to changes in circadian rhythms or conditions like insomnia, directly contributes to inflammaging by elevating stress hormones and inflammatory markers. Similarly, diets high in processed foods, refined sugars, and trans fats can trigger spikes in cytokines, while a lack of physical activity allows inflammation to persist unchecked. The consequences of inflammaging are far-reaching and interconnected. It heightens the risk of serious conditions such as cardiovascular disease, which remains the leading cause of death in older adults, neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's disease, where inflammation plays a key role in plaque formation, and frailty, a state of diminished strength and resilience that increases vulnerability to falls and infections. Moreover, inflammaging can amplify existing health issues, making recovery from illness or injury slower and more challenging. For instance, a minor respiratory infection may linger longer in an inflamed body, and wound healing may be delayed, increasing the risk of complications. What makes inflammaging particularly alarming is its invisibility. Most people remain unaware of it until it manifests as a diagnosable condition, such as heart disease or cognitive decline, at which point the damage may be difficult to reverse. However, the encouraging news is that inflammaging is not an inevitable fate of aging. Proactive, accessible strategies can significantly reduce their impact and help preserve vitality well into one's 80s and beyond. A diet rich in anti-inflammatory foods, such as leafy greens, berries, fatty fish rich in omega-3s, nuts, and olive oil, can lower inflammatory markers and support cellular health. For example, the Mediterranean diet, widely studied for its anti-inflammatory benefits, emphasizes whole foods and minimizes processed ingredients, offering a practical framework for dietary change. Regular physical activity is another powerful tool. Even moderate exercise, such as a daily 20-30-minute walk, promotes circulation, reduces cytokine levels, and stimulates the release of anti-inflammatory compounds. Strength training with light weights or resistance bands, practiced 2 to 3 times a week, further supports muscle health and reduces inflammation. Quality sleep is equally critical, as it allows the body to repair and reset inflammatory pathways. Older adults can improve sleep hygiene by maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, creating a restful bedroom environment, and avoiding stimulants like caffeine in the evening. Stress management techniques, such as mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, or gentle yoga, can lower cortisol levels and mitigate inflammation triggered by chronic stress. Finally, reducing exposure to environmental toxins, by choosing natural cleaning products, filtering indoor air, or avoiding heavily polluted areas, can further lighten the inflammatory load. These strategies require consistency rather than intensity, and their benefits accumulate over time. For example, studies have shown that adopting an anti-inflammatory diet and regular exercise can reduce CRP levels by up to 30% within months, significantly lowering the risk of age-related diseases. By addressing inflammaging proactively, individuals can enhance their resilience, maintain mental and physical vitality, and reduce the risk of conditions that threaten quality of life after 80. The goal is not to eliminate aging but to age gracefully, preserving the strength and clarity needed to enjoy life's simple pleasures, whether that's a walk in the park, a lively conversation with friends, or the energy to pursue a favorite hobby. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Reason 4. Loneliness and the loss of daily purpose. Another profound health challenge after the age of 80 is the gradual but relentless loss of muscle mass and strength, a condition known as sarcopenia. This natural process begins as early as one's 30s, with muscle mass declining by approximately 0.5 to 1% per year after age 60. After 80, this rate accelerates significantly, often leading to noticeable declines in physical function, mobility, and independence. Sarcopenia is insidious because its early signs are subtle and easily mistaken for normal aging. Slight weakness when opening a jar, a slower pace when climbing stairs, or increased fatigue after routine tasks. However, its consequences can be life-altering, increasing the risk of falls, fractures, and a loss of autonomy that can profoundly impact quality of life. Sarcopenia's effects extend far beyond physical strength. Muscle tissue is a critical component of overall health, playing roles in balance, joint stability, metabolism, and even immune function. It helps regulate blood sugar by acting as a reservoir for glucose uptake, supports posture to prevent strain on bones and joints, and provides the strength needed for everyday activities like carrying groceries, getting out of a chair, or walking to the mailbox. As muscle mass diminishes, the body becomes more vulnerable to injuries, chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes, and a downward spiral of reduced mobility that can lead to social isolation and dependency. Consider the case of Frank, an 84-year-old widower who lived alone and prided himself on his independence. Frank remained mentally sharp, enjoyed reading history books, tending to his small garden, and chatting with neighbors. However, one evening, while walking through his living room, he tripped over a loose rug and fell, fracturing his hip. Before the fall, Frank had considered himself steady and capable, unaware of how much muscle strength he had lost over the years. The injury required surgery, weeks of bed rest, and a lengthy rehabilitation process that eroded his confidence and limited his ability to live independently. What Frank didn't realize was that sarcopenia had quietly weakened his muscles, reducing his balance and stability and making him more susceptible to the fall that changed his life. His story is not uncommon. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related deaths among adults over 80, and muscle weakness is a primary contributor. The danger of sarcopenia lies in its compounding effects. A single fall can trigger a cascade of consequences: hospitalization, prolonged immobility, further muscle loss, and increased reliance on assistive devices like canes, walkers, or wheelchairs. For many older adults, this cycle leads to a loss of freedom, reduced social engagement, and a diminished sense of purpose, as they can no longer participate in activities that once brought joy. Research indicates that sarcopenia not only increases the risk of falls but also contributes to frailty, a condition characterized by reduced strength, endurance, and resilience. Frailty heightens vulnerability to infections, slows recovery from illness, and increases the likelihood of long-term care placement. The progression of sarcopenia is influenced by a combination of factors, including natural aging, inadequate nutrition, and a sedentary lifestyle. As we age, the body becomes less efficient at repairing and building muscle tissue, a process exacerbated by declining levels of hormones like testosterone and growth hormone. Poor nutrition, particularly insufficient protein intake, further accelerates muscle loss, as the body lacks the building blocks needed for muscle repair. Sedentary habits, common among older adults due to joint pain, fatigue, or lack of motivation, allow muscles to weaken further, creating a vicious cycle of inactivity and decline. Loneliness and loss of daily purpose, often experienced after retirement or the loss of a spouse, can compound this issue by reducing the motivation to stay active or maintain healthy habits. Yet, sarcopenia is not an inevitable fate. While some muscle loss is a natural part of aging, its progression can be slowed, and in many cases, muscle strength and function can be partially restored with targeted, accessible interventions. Regular physical activity is the cornerstone of sarcopenia prevention. For example, walking for 20 to 30 minutes most days of the week improves circulation, supports muscle maintenance, and enhances balance, reducing the risk of falls. Resistance exercises, such as lifting light weights, using resistance bands, or performing bodyweight movements like chair squats or wall push-ups, can stimulate muscle growth and strength when done 2 to 3 times a week. These exercises don't require a gym or expensive equipment. Simple movements done at home can make a significant difference. Nutrition is equally critical. Consuming adequate protein, aiming for 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight daily, supports muscle repair and maintenance. Good protein sources include lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy, beans, lentils, and tofu. For example, a breakfast of Greek yogurt with nuts or a lunch of grilled chicken with quinoa can provide the necessary nutrients. Pairing protein with regular meals ensures a steady supply of amino acids for muscle health. Additionally, ensuring adequate intake of vitamin D, either through sunlight exposure, fortified foods, or supplements, supports muscle function and bone health, further reducing fall risk. Gentle stretching or activities like yoga and Tai Chi can improve flexibility, coordination, and balance, making everyday movements safer and more comfortable. The emotional and psychological aspects of sarcopenia prevention should not be overlooked. loneliness, and a lack of daily purpose, common among older adults, can sap the motivation to stay active or eat well. Engaging in social activities, whether joining a walking group, volunteering, or attending community events, can provide both physical and emotional benefits, encouraging consistency in healthy habits. For example, participating in a local exercise class not only builds strength but also fosters connections that combat isolation. The goal of addressing sarcopenia is not to achieve the physique of a young athlete but to preserve enough strength, balance, and mobility to maintain independence and enjoy life's daily pleasures. Whether it's playing with grandchildren, tending to a garden, or simply getting out of bed with confidence, muscle health is a silent protector that safeguards physical and emotional well-being. By adopting small, sustainable habits, regular movement, balanced nutrition, and social engagement, individuals can slow the progression of sarcopenia, reduce the risk of falls and injuries, and maintain a vibrant, fulfilling life well into their 80s and beyond. Thank you for joining us today on this journey to uncover the 4 silent forces that can shape how we live beyond 80. Take a moment to reflect. What have you learned so far? Maybe it's how inflammation quietly builds, how muscle loss sneaks up, the power of better sleep, or the vital role of purpose and connection. Whatever stood out to you, we'd love to hear about it. Please share one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to put it into practice in your life by leaving a comment below. Your thoughts inspire us and others. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us keep creating content to inform and empower you. See you in the next video.